welcome to the definitive Windows 98 demonstration. My name is BJ Whalen. My partner in crime here is Mr. Dave Poland, and we're both members of the Windows 98 marketing team. Today we're going to give you an inside look at what Windows 98 can do, and we're also going to compare it head-to-head versus Windows 95, so you can very clearly see the differences. Now, what I'd like to do is start out with a brief slide of what Windows 98 is all about. Very simply, Windows 98 is the successor to Windows 95 that works better and it plays better. Windows 98 works better because it's easier, it's faster, and it's smarter. Windows 98 plays better because you've got great gaming capabilities. You're going to see that it's an incredible entertainment platform, and ultimately you're going to be able to do many more things with your PC than you were able to do in the past. Okay, so let's start out with an example of how Windows 98 works better.
Great. BJ, a key benefit of Windows 98 is that it's much easier to use than Windows 95 and has much tighter integration with the Internet. Windows 95 users will be very excited to know that they'll be able to make a very easy transition over to the Windows 98 user interface, but we've made a lot of enhancements and a lot of very interesting new tricks and tips to allow you to get the most out of the Internet and to do a lot of customization on your desktop. BJ, why don't you give us a few examples?
Okay, great. What you see here is the Windows 98 desktop, and I'm going to launch into my computer, and the first thing you notice is that as I hover over a particular icon like my C drive, immediately off to the left of the screen it tells me how big is my overall hard drive and how much free disk space I have left. And you compare that to Windows 95, where in order to get that same information, what you would need to do is you'd need to know that you need to right-click on the C drive and then go into Properties to get it. So the bottom line is that with Windows 98, we're making the information more accessible to the user. The other thing you notice is that as I move over to other objects in my computer, we've extended that same type of functionality. So for example, on the printers, it tells me about how I can use that to set up a printer, or in the control panel, it tells me what that's for as well. Let me surf here through my C drive and go into my documents. Now let's take a look what happens when I just hover over a particular file. Say for example this bitmap. I get a preview image of what that file is. Or for example if I go to a Word document, same thing. Or a PowerPoint. And so the nice thing is there are often a lot of times where we have a lot of folders and files in a particular folder, and you may not remember which is which, and this way you can figure out what it is without having to actually open it up, so you can ultimately work more efficiently and productively. Now, why don't we take a look at how Windows 98 also integrates the Internet capability with your desktop. So the first thing you notice here is that I'm looking again, as I said, at my local hard drive, but what I can do now is I can actually type in a web address and go directly to the Internet. So I'm just going to type in an address for Microsoft.com, and you notice we've got autocomplete, and I'm going to go right to the Windows 98 website. So the nice thing is that I can use the very same tool from when I was just looking at the contents of my Documents folder, and then immediately I'm looking at the web. And you can compare this to the past, where if you were looking at the contents of your hard drive, users would then back out, launch a separate browser application to get at that same information. So the nice thing here is that with Windows 98, you no longer need to be thinking about, well, what kind of information do I want to find? Okay, based on that type of information, what type of tool should I be using? So no matter what, it's much easier to find the information. One other way we've integrated the Internet capabilities with the desktop is that I don't even have to launch an application to get the information I want. Right here on this taskbar, I've got what we call the address bar, and I can just type in a web address right from here. So say, for example, I want to go to Yahoo. Immediately, right from the taskbar, I can go to the web. Or I could even type in, say, My Documents. And immediately, I'm there.
That's very cool. Now, BJ, with Win95, I'm actually able to add things to my Start button. And for example, let me give you a quick example. Everyone knows how you can do. You just click on an icon, and you can drag it to your Start button, and there it appears on your desktop. However, it's actually quite difficult to otherwise modify the Start button or to remove icons from the desktop from the Start button after you've put it on there in the first place. Is there anything new in Win98 to help that?
Yeah, there is. What you'll actually see is that in Windows 98, just about every icon in the Start menu is customizable. So for example, let's go to my Start menu, and let's think about the System tools. I often find myself going into the System tools, and the nice thing is that now I don't like how it's buried down here. I can just drag it, and let's put it right up here. And so there it is. Or, for example, I can go into my documents of recently opened files, and I know this frequently changes depending on the files that I open, but if I know that I always want to be able to open the Windows 98 Monster Demo Fest PowerPoint, I can just drag that right up here, and there it is. So what you see is it's very, very easy to customize your start menu with Windows 98.
Very cool. Is it also possible to get, like, single-click access to all my favorite applications?
Yeah, it is. You notice here on the bottom left-hand corner of the taskbar, you've got this area which we call the Quick Launch bar. And what it means is that I can drag shortcuts to applications, pop them right on that Quick Launch bar, and I don't even need to use the start menu to get where I want to go. So, for example, I'll take my favorite productivity application, Flight Simulator, drag it right to that Quick Launch, and now I can just immediately launch it when I'm back in my office.
Very cool. So BJ, what we've just shown is that Windows 98 is actually much easier to use because we've really enhanced the customizability of the desktop and really made the internet much more tightly integrated. Now, why don't we move on to look at quality?
Yeah, why don't we start with that? One of the first things we've done is that we've made it easier for users to help themselves, for example, by updating the help system. Now, Dave, you were talking about in the past, the other day, you had a problem printing on Windows 95. Can you explain to me what that problem was about?
Absolutely. I have Win 95, I bought a printer, I brought it home, and hooked it up to the back of the PC, but I had problems printing. And so I thought maybe help could help me locate the problem and fix it. So I went into help, and I've got quite a bit of information here. Let's go in the index and type in printing. So click on display. And actually not really what I wanted, but I do find a troubleshooter guide. So let's take a look at some troubleshooting information. It says print troubleshooter. We'll say what's wrong. It says my document didn't print at all. Well, that sounds like my problem. Let's take a look. It says try printing a test page. But I already know that, I already tried to print a page and it doesn't work. So BJ, does Windows 98 actually help me out here?
Yeah, it does. Let's first take a look at the help system in Windows 98. The first thing you notice is that we've got a two-pane view of the help system. So not only can you see the index list of things that you're searching for, but then once you find a topic, you can still see both the list as well as the details on that particular topic. So let's go to the Troubleshooting Wizard within Windows 98. And now what I want to point out, the difference between Windows 98 and Windows 95 is that we've actually got a very detailed and thorough print troubleshooting wizard that will walk you through the steps that you would actually go through if you were to call a support technician at Microsoft on the phone. And they would ask you a series of questions such as, what type of problem are you having? Well, my document didn't print at all. Okay, next. Well, are you printing to a local printer or a network printer? Okay. Well, is your printer set as a default printer? And so what you see is there's a much more thorough set of questions that we ask to really identify the problem. So with Windows 98, we're much smarter about how we can diagnose and troubleshoot problems. Now, we all know there are times when the help system simply just doesn't have the information we need, no matter how good we make the help. One of the reasons for that is that once we ship that CD, the help system is burned onto that CD. We can't update it anymore. But after we ship the product and we talk to customers, we learn a whole lot about how to support Windows 98 and also some tips and tricks that we learn after we ship the CD. So in the past, it was difficult to incorporate into the help system. Well, with Windows 98, we've gone a long way to actually deliver that information into the help system by linking you directly to the web. So we've got a button here called Web Help. I click on this button, and what happens is it'll take me directly to the support online site at Microsoft.com. So now I'm on the web, and immediately I'm at the Windows 98 site. And so now I can, for example, find out the latest information on printing. If I click my search options, you'll also notice I've got support for natural language search support. So now I'll just say, how do I print?
This means that users could just type in, the problem as they see it. So,
exactly.
Example, like, how do I print? They don't have to worry about being really specific.
Then up comes the list of all the latest knowledge base articles related to printing. And this is actually the database that our support professionals use as well. So as a user, you can actually access this and ultimately save yourself a lot of time if you want by not having to go through and call a PSS person and wait through the lines there.
Okay, very cool. Now, BJ, our support technicians also tell us that one of the most common reasons for support calls is that a PC stops working properly because of outdated or obsolete or corrupted drivers. Now, does Windows 98 also provide a way to make sure that you always have the latest drivers?
Yes, we've got a tool within Windows 98 called the Windows Update Wizard, and what this does is it takes you to the Windows Update site on Microsoft.com, and this is actually a one-stop shopping network for all your latest system files, whether it's bug fixes, updated service packs, or even third-party drivers. So let's take a look at this site. It's actually right on the top of the Start menu, called Windows Update. And what this tool does is it will actually inspect your computer and figure out what your exact configuration is in terms of system components and hardware peripherals, and then it'll scan your system to see if there are any later files available that we know of on Microsoft.com, and if there are, we'll give you the option to install them. Now, those of you who may have security concerns, you'll be very happy to know that all this comparison of what is actually on your system is done locally on your machine. So we never upload any of that information back to the web to Microsoft, so that we ensure your confidentiality there. Now let's take a look at the Update Wizard. In this case, the Update Wizard is now scanning my system, figuring out what exactly I have installed, and it's comparing it to the latest and greatest system files. In a minute here, you'll see it comes up with a list of available updates. Now right now we've just got a basic update available. Welcome to the Windows Update website. This is just a sample of what you might see. And on the right-hand side it says description. Welcome to Windows Update Wizard.
Yeah.
It also tells you here, how long it would take to download it if you're using a 28.8 modem. This would be less than a minute. So let's go ahead and install this. Okay, so you see it's downloading it, and now it's done. And if I now go to my desktop, here's the welcome.txt message that it just installed on my computer.
That was incredibly easy.
Exactly. Now the nice thing is that with Windows Update, you can actually, at any time later, go back and restore your system to how it was previously. So say, for example, you don't want to have that little update on your system anymore. I hit the Restore button, and what it says is Previous Updates. These are all things that I would have already installed from Windows Update onto my PC. And now I can now very easily uninstall it. So let's go ahead and hit Uninstall. And now you see the file's gone. So that's how easy it is to keep your system up to date with the latest and greatest system files with using the Microsoft Windows Update.
Cool. BJ, a common problem that Windows 95 users tell us about is that, they have problems with their PC after they've installed a certain application, and they find that other applications perhaps have stopped working. And the common reason for this is that there's become a DLL conflict where the new application has installed files that now conflict with an older application and cause it to stop working. And for many Windows 95 users, the only course of the only solution to this might be to have to reinstall Windows, especially if it was a system file that was broken. Now, does Windows 98 give us any additional help in this area?
Yes, it does. Let's take a simple example here. Let's take a look at the calculator application. I'm trying to launch my favorite personal finance application, and something's going wrong. It says this program has performed an illegal operation and will be shut down. Now, something's obviously wrong here, but it's very difficult to know what. Maybe I just installed a new application and there's some kind of conflict with one of the files that calculator uses. And often the only recourse, as you were mentioning, is just to do a reinstall, because more often than not, that'll fix it, but it's not really the most efficient way to fix it. So in Windows 98, we now have a tool that will allow you to diagnose this and find the exact problem much, much more efficiently. It's kind of like looking for a needle in a haystack. It allows you to find that needle very quickly. This tool is called the System File Checker, and what it does is it scans all your system files for anything that's been corrupted, deleted, or changed. So I'm going to hit Start, and it's going to scan my system files. In a moment here, it's going to figure out what the problem is. System File Checker has identified that the following file has changed, calc.exe. And so what I can do is actually choose to restore it. And I'm going to restore it from my original install media. And now, hit close, and let's try to run the calculator. And immediately you see that it works.
Awesome.
So with this tool, we make it very easy again to diagnose problems that in the past you could spend hours trying to diagnose and troubleshoot. Now it's just much more efficient.